been a long time since I played Wario World, not since 2008. Got the game for my 13th birthday in 2005, beat it, went back to 100% it 3 years later. Ignore those 2014 dates, that wasn't me playing, just watching. Let's get straight into the story. We get told of an evil black jewel. It's actually purple, but alright. It feeds on people's wishes to become more powerful and creates evil spirits to cause havoc. Some guys called the Spritelings managed to seal it away in their ruins. Years later, no one remembers this, and the jewel is found and stolen by a certain treasure hunter. The jewel then decides to turn all of Wario's treasure into evil spirits. So there's Wario, sat on his throne and laughing his ass off at no one, surrounded by all his treasure. But it all comes apart when Black Jewel bursts out of its chest and sends Wario falling down through this white void into the game's hub world. Walking straight ahead takes me towards this huge chest containing Black Jewel. Right below it is a load of WarioWare minigames I could play, but not right now, by connecting a Game Boy Advance to the GameCube. But I can't record a GBA screen, playing doesn't unlock anything, and I'll just play them if I ever get around to the first WarioWare game, so I'm not bothering. I also can't open the chest, but I can see the middle has a slot with 4 outlines inside it. There's also 4 other areas surrounding the middle, but only one is open, Excitement Central. There's a weird heart icon on the floor and only one level open. Outside is a to-do list which is identical for every level. I enter and am sent to the first level, Greenhorn Forest. This level's theme is probably the most memorable Wario music to me, and is the one I associate with the character the most. People ask why Wario Land music isn't in Smash, but I just want this at least. So I walk down a bit and climb this tree to be met with our first enemies, Magon. They go down in a few punches and drop coins, except for this big one which falls down and I can then pick it up and throw away. Pressing this coloured switch makes a chest appear over a tile of the same colour. The chest contains a treasure, collecting all treasures in a level unless one of those WarioWare minigames. I drop down and continue along to be stopped by this fidgeting box crying out for help. Punching it open frees a Spriteling, who explains to Wario what I've already told you and the controls. There's 5 Spritelings in every level. I keep going forward, jumping over some giant tree stumps and find my first heart fragment in the air. There's 8 of these in every level and collecting them all increases my health. Beat up some more Magons and climb this tree for another heart fragment. A little further along I demonstrate Wario's pile driver, done by picking up an enemy, jumping and pressing the R button. Right there is a red switch, creating the chest containing the second treasure. Then, rather than platforming across this drop, I run down to discover and press the yellow switch. Next to it I can show off Wario's ability to inhale nearby coins by pressing the L button. It's very convenient. Climbing across the poles I find the chest I made appear and get another treasure. Past that I find a second Spriteling which tells me how to get to the goal. There's red diamonds hidden in sub areas throughout the level and I need to collect a certain amount to open the goal up. The hatch happens to be right in front of here so I ground pound through it. Each one has a little challenge to do to get to the diamond. This one's just jumping across 2 platforms. There's also the third heart fragment in front of the diamond, then I just bounce on out. Right outside I get interrupted by this curiously shaped thing. Apparently it's a garlic dispenser. Yeah, that's what I call mine too. I can buy health restoring garlic from it. Moving on we have blocks that can only be destroyed by attacking them on a certain side. And past them is another sub-level. Just gotta navigate these floating platforms. There's also another heart fragment in here. One thing to note is that in the pause menu, each heart fragment slowly adds parts to a gold Wario statue. Since it's only the second one, getting the diamond is easy. Once I'm out, I spend too much time messing about breaking all the bricks because they give 3 coins each. Then I ground pound this bunny trampoline thing to reach a higher section, where I find the third Spriteling and get patronised over my B button pressing skills. He's actually explained that by holding B I can use Wario's signature shoulder charge. Rather than going forward I move back along this higher path and meet some flying enemies, Cracktile. Just a jump punch has them laid out ready to be picked up. There's also this sub-level here. Oh my god, why am I shit at dropping down holes now? For this one there's loads of smaller blocks to punch away. I take out a couple and climb up to the top for a heart fragment. Then it's just a case of smashing away blocks and getting inside this cube and then smashing away more until I hear the fanfare for picking up a diamond. Then I decide to hang around smashing away every remaining block for the coins. Now that I finally have some free time, it's time for me to talk about my experience with Wario. While the first game I played featuring Wario was Super Mario Land 2, his first appearance, I wasn't good enough to reach him back then. But I remember a couple of family members talk about him and because I was 5, I was fascinated by the idea of this evil Mario. I didn't actually get to see what he even looks like until I got my N64 and we rented Mario Kart 64. Of course he was the first character I chose to play as. Then for my 7th birthday I got a Game Boy Color and a copy of the first Wario Land. I've always liked Wario. I mean, how can I not like a fellow fat disgusting slob with a big nose who can't keep all of his money and loves food too much? I always loved the personality and mannerisms that give me not just his own games, but the rest of the Mario spin-offs. He's probably the character in the entire franchise that's made me laugh the most. Granted most of that is because of his character model in the first 2 Mario Party games. That head is hilarious. But anyway, back outside. I demonstrate I can spin an enemy around while holding them and spinning the control stick. I climb up this tree and fight more enemies, throwing one onto this green switch. There's also the first Triceratops enemy here. They usually try to block attacks with their clubs, but this one I spin a big Magon into and knock it away. I get another treasure from the green chest, climb back up the tree and go the other direction to find the 6th heart fragment and the lighter green switch. The chest being by the first bunny trampoline and getting me another treasure. I finally continue from where the path branched off and right away find another sub-level. For this one I just have to punch away enough blocks in each stack so I can climb up and then get the diamond. Then I smash the rest for their coins. Further on I find a little pond with even more Magon and the 7th heart fragment. Climbing this tree I beat up these 2 Triceratops and throw one of these big warrior head shaped rocks into a blue switch. One thing to note is that you don't have to move very far before enemies respawn. Not a problem for me because these guys are fun to beat up and I like watching that coin counter go up. Right next to that is another sub-level. Inside we have our first glue globe. Wario can cling on to it and move around in it in any direction. Here I have to move into the right position to pass through this ring to reach one more diamond. Back outside I bounce over these logs and find the blue chest with more treasure, followed by the 4th Spriteling and behind it another sub-level. This one demonstrates levers. I punch it and it moves the blocks to create a staircase to the diamond. Outside is the tile for another chest but I haven't found the switch yet. I tried crossing one of these bridges but it collapses, dropping me into Unicorn's lair. This is where you go after falling into any pit. All I have to do is try to find the escape spring, but I have Unicorn chasing me who will take coins from me if he attacks me. Also if I land in water, I'll bounce and lose coins. After escaping, I cross the other bridge and find the last Spriteling for this level. I ignore the stone doohickey leading to the boss and continue on. I find another blue switch and another sub-level. Here I have one switch that moves this platform and another that rotates it. I just move it to the other side and make an L shape to climb up and get the diamond. Once I'm out, I reach the end of the level, but I can still climb up this tree and continue backwards, where I can find the purple switch. Past that is another sub-level. Very easy. There's these spike balls circling the platform, just jump up between them to get the last heart fragment and diamond to this level. Still going on backwards, I find a blue chest and get its treasure and meet the last recurring enemy type, Ankyron. They fire a cannon but they're easy to beat up. They'll hide in their shell for a bit to become impervious to damage. Once that's done I drop down to the purple chest and get the last treasure, collecting everything in Greenhorn Forest. It may only be the first level, but it might be my favourite. Back then I used to just go back to this level and beat my way through everything for fun. Wario just works so well in the beat 'em up style, and I'm surprised this is the only one he's been in. I enter 3 diamonds into the stone doohickey and into the hatch to fight the boss, Green Fist. Being the first boss is very simple. Punch him a bit and he glows red and becomes invincible as he flails his fists around at you. Eventually gets tired and you knock him down to either throw him off the arena or pile drive him for 1 damage. He jumps back up and I just repeat the same strategy, although I mess up by jumping before throwing and he bounces off the wall and back into the arena, taking no damage. Next time I just pile drive him. For the 3rd round he charges quicker and I finally take my first point of damage in this playthrough, but then I knock him down and finish him off. Once the level is cleared I get some coins for every enemy I killed during that run. With the statue complete the heart pedestal fills in halfway, giving me another half a heart. The door to the next level also opens. This one takes me to Greenhorn Ruins. First thing I do is punch open a block to reveal where a chest will spawn, then I smash through the pile of them to the right to find the switch for the yellow chest which spawns right next to it, already getting me my first treasure. I also see where that red switch is and have to climb the ladder, try the corkscrew cock by jumping while dashing. It doesn't work so I move on. Just a little right past the ladder is the level's first Spriteling. I follow that up with one of my favourite things. I pick up this column and spin the control stick, performing the wild swing ding and smacking all these Magons away. And already after that small group of enemies is a second Spriteling. This one tells me about other uses for the wild swing ding. I can pick up a big enemy and use the move to spin this cog to open this gate. On the other side I can then punch this green switch. At the top of these stairs is a pair of enemy generators. They're constantly spitting out Magons until I pick a few of them up and beat them to death with them and one of the pillars. Behind them is a metal hatch. I can't get through with a normal ground pound so I have to instead pile drive one of these Triceratops through. This leads to a new kind of sub-area, a platforming challenge in the sky. Being the first, this one's very simple. Walk along this path, punch the switch to activate the moving pole of the glue globe and ride it up to the first heart fragment and red diamond. Not before slowly picking up all these coins of course. And then right away after I leave is another Spriteling to save. Now that I've entered a sub-area, these blocks back at the beginning have respawned and I can use one to reach the red switch and spawn the chest for another treasure. Next to where that last Spriteling was is a chain of glue globes. At the top is another set, but rather than continuing on, I go left for another sub-area. This one is really easy if you just want the diamond, but if you want the coins there's this circle of spiked balls that always covers one of the 2 circles. And even if I do get hit, after I pick up the diamond, there's a garlic bread behind. After leaving I head towards the screen, punching away queues of Magon where I find the dark green chest and another treasure, passing by this light green one I haven't activated yet. I then climb the rest of the glue globes and then this chain and run into what is apparently called a gem-bodied creature. They summon a few of these crystal creatures that I must knock out of the air, pick up and throw into its head thing. It'll then follow up with an easily avoided laser. After 3 hits it gets dizzy so I can pick up and slam it into the ground, letting me continue. On the way there's an old red mug that I can punch over to create a small shortcut. Close to it is the light green switch. Thankfully not much backtracking as the old red mug leads right back to the section that has the chest containing the level's 4th piece of treasure. Moving on I cross a chain of glue globes over a small gap with a couple of Triceratops in them, getting another heart fragment on the way. After that I drop down a set of platforms, one having the spot where another chest spawns. When I get to the bottom I go right and find a switch for it. It contains a 5th treasure. I then open the gate at the bottom, get lazy and fall off the stage. Next time I learn, and I cross the bridge and walk past the generator to find a blue switch and another old red mug to deal with. I cross the glue globes next to it for another heart fragment. I cross my new bridge to find the blue chest with the next treasure. I pick up a big enemy from the generator to reopen the gate, but I fall off the level again. Once I'm out, I instead choose to take the long way back. I take the opposite path back to where the light blue switch was, and push through the blocks to find another hatch. For this one, I just had to climb up these small platforms while avoiding the spiked balls to get the red diamond at the top. I fall off the first couple times, but otherwise it's another simple one. Right by it is more glue globes leading up to another hatch and another spriteling. In this sub area we're introduced to the arrow block that moves in the direction you punch it until it hits something. One punch gets me into another heart fragment and red diamond. After leaving I move right and enter a battle ring. I have a minute to defeat as many enemies as I can. The more I defeat, the more coins I'm rewarded with. For this I just keep using the wild swing ding with these pillars and this last triceratops. The game doesn't tell me how many I beat though, just leaving me a chest with all the coins I won. Right after this I climb down a chain to find a metal hatch, an old red mug to knock over and an enemy generator. I wait for the generator to drop a big mag on and pile drive through the hatch. Back in the air and I've got a few rotating platforms to cross. This would be over very quickly actually, but I decide to slowly get nearly every single coin on the way. Like most sub areas I get another heart fragment and red diamond at the end. Once out I cross the old red mug, open this gate and climb up to another hatch. In there's a load of stone warrior heads, just gotta keep picking them up until I find the heart fragment and red diamond. Both of them are on the back row. That leaves me missing just one spriteling and 2 of every other collectible. I drop back down to the bottom and smash through these blocks to find a purple switch, a pink switch and another metal hatch. There's a path going along the middle with a load of moving platforms slightly higher up ready to push me off. This time I don't bother going for the coins and head straight to the heart fragment at the end. Then it's crossing a few more moving blocks to get to the diamond. To the left of the previous hatch is a purple chest with the 7th treasure and going to the right leads to the last spriteling. In front of it is a pink chest containing the last treasure, an NES. And just past the stone doohickey is one more metal hatch. This one's very easy, just walk in a straight line and you reach the last diamond and heart fragment. With everything collected, I can now challenge the boss, the Scythe-armed monster. That's really all it's called. It travels around the sand until I find it and give it a few whacks. It turns red and chases me, trying to hit me until it gives up. After the second time it goes into the centre of the quicksand and tries spitting spiked balls at me. Then just repeat that 3 more times and it's beaten. Apparently I killed over 300 enemies in that level. Outside the level I get the next half heart added to my maximum and move on to the boss of Excitement Central, Dino-Mighty. She's big, and as you can see she has a glue globe on the end of her tail and tongue. She'll start off trying to step on me. I keep punching in the stomach until she sticks out her tongue. I grab onto it and get lifted above her head, which I then jump on. This stuns her so I can pick her up and pile drive her. I forgot about the shockwave she creates when she gets up. That's not the only way to stun her though. I can throw a pillar at her to stun her instantly. I can also throw her into the fire to damage her. If I grab a pillar and hit her in the foot with the wild swing ding, she'll hop around in pain and fall in the fire, taking damage and giving me loads of coins. If I grab onto her tail, she'll try to swing me off but then give up and bring me above her head so I can ground pound it. She's probably my favourite boss in the game just for all the ways you can damage her and each one feels good to pull off. One more pile driver and she's done. For defeating her I get a piece of the key to the huge treasure chest. The key slots into the chest and the next section opens. So it's time for me to leave Excitement Central behind and move on to Spooktastic World and its first level, Horror Manor. I can just walk forward and right away find the first spriteling. After that I'm blocked off by a wall with a big bone fist coming out of it. It tried to squish me under its hand but I just have to dodge and ground pound it. Dodge the laser it fires, don't get grabbed, and pound it a couple more times to destroy it and the wall. Right through it is this level's red switch. The enemy types from the first world return but I'll have new models to fit the theme of this one, so we have skeletal magons and the like. So I walk up this little hill and back around the top to find the red chest containing this level's first treasure. Next to it is a ghostly glue globe that floats into the air a little bit before disappearing. I use it to jump onto the bit of hill on the outside of this fence and follow it around to a yellow switch and then towards the screen to find a hatch. This sub-area contains a huge cube made of small blocks with a gap to enter and work my way through until I pop out the top for the first heart fragment and diamond. I go back to the hill and go all the way right until I end up in a fight with another gem-bodied creature. Nothing changes about its attack pattern but swinging a pillar into it does damage. I don't even get to pile drive it in the end because a crystal creature dive bombs me while I'm picking it up and I drop it. Past it is this graveyard. I pick up a stone head and take it to this swirly slab just outside, then use a wild swing ding to raise it so I can get this heart fragment at the top. Then I go down the hatch in the graveyard. This one's all about punching levers and then jumping to the next platform before it sets off. At the top we have the second spriteling and diamond. At the front of the graveyard is the yellow chest with the second treasure and in the top right corner is a green switch. It spawns a chest on top of this wall with another big bone fist on it. After taking care of it I pick up a skeletal cracktule and raise a swirly slab to get another heart fragment. Can't get to the green chest just yet so I have to keep going to the right. It leads me to a slightly flooded section with these swordfish enemies. They act like the large enemies so can be picked up after taking a few hits. Unfortunately I kill them all when I need one to get through this metal hatch. So instead I get back up on the pillar that last heart fragment was on and long jump onto the higher back section. There's 2 glue globes here and I take the right one up this building. I get to the top where there's a blue switch and another jet body creature which I quickly take care of. I drop back down and take the left glue globe over this gate. There I can use a cracktile to enter a metal hatch. I don't bother much with the coins here. First cross the rotating line of blocks to get a heart fragment, then climb up the next set and fall. Next time I do it right and get the diamond. Once I pop out I punch the green chest open for its treasure. Then I go back down to the bottom of the hill and slam a respawn swordfish into that metal hatch. This one has a ring of moving blocks. I jump the opposite direction, they're moving because of the spiked balls they're moving towards. The chest in the middle just has a piece of garlic, so I get the diamond and I'm on my way. Past the hatch is some stairs leading to a ladder which is the intended way to get to the back of that hill. I go around to the right side of it and just barely make the jump to this spriteling. I drop down and meet a door spirit. I ignore the electricity it spits at me and just punch it until it dies, opening the door. First thing I do inside the manor is kill the enemy generator, then ride a glue globe up to the blue chest I activated, another treasure. And after taking out the upper door spirit, the intended way to get to that spriteling, I jump across that light green switch at the front of the screen. The other side of that floor has another door spirit and behind it the 4th spriteling of the level. Close by is a stronger silver door spirit that will also charge a stronger projectile after a few hits. Through that door is a normal hatch. The diamond is in the middle of 2 disappearing and reappearing electric barriers. I gave a diamond simply enough, but suffered my first death trying to get the garlic that would have saved me. All it takes is 200 coins for me to not be booted from the level. Down the stairs from the hatch is the dark blue switch and then another silver door spirit. The next room has a hole in the middle, but not so fast, there's a heart fragment on the other side. The hole drops me into a battle ring where I stick to my preferred pillar swinging strategy. This all more than makes up for the 200 coins I lost. Moving on, there's a hatch I can't reach, so it's picking up a swordfish and going up this swirly slab. Over top I get the treasure from the light green switch and ride the glue globe to the next level to avoid some crushers. From there I can completely miss the hatch. In it is a series of small blocks that alternate rotating quickly. Just 2 tries gets me the heart fragment and diamond. I climb back up and instead of going past the crushers I go right, which shows me next to a metal hatch and some swordfish. This time it's a load of large blocks moving in a circle while rising and lowering with half of them being icy. I just stay moving in as straight a line as I can to get another heart fragment and diamond. I grab onto a glue globe on this wheel and instead of continuing right, I jump to another one on the top left and past some electric barriers to find a spot the purple chest will spawn. So I go across the other side and go down to open the dark blue chest for more treasure. Going further right gets me to the purple switch, so I go back to get more treasure from the chest. After falling, I accidentally discover a metal hatch I nearly missed and slam my Sankiron down through it. In this area, none of the blocks are moving but some are very small, so I don't get it on my first try. At the end is the final heart fragment and diamond. Moving right after leaving and I can find the pink switch in the furthest corner. Back to crossing the cogs on these glue globes. At the end I drop down to find the chest containing the last treasure, then ride the cogs back up to free the final spriteling. That's everything in the level collected, so now I can face the boss, Brawl Doll. That thing's face is terrifying. It floats around so I jump up and punch it which pisses it off and makes it try slapping me. A few more punches knocks it down and I pile drive it. It follows that up with one of the easiest to avoid projectiles I've ever seen in a game. But don't worry, I still make a fool of myself by climbing a flaming pillar and setting my ass on fire. After that it's repeating the strategy and pile driving it again. This time it actually tries to hit me with its projectiles. After that nothing much changes. I do get killed after its 4th attempt at shooting me. On the last cycle it puts a new move in there, trying to charge at me, but once it's done I finish it off. That was an alright level. Felt longer than the last 2 even though they all took the same length of time. So I leave and get my health upgrade, then enter the second level, Wonky Circus. Right after dropping in I'm surrounded by Magons reskinned as clowns. Basically the Magons, Cracktile, Triceratops and Ankyron are the only enemy types to appear in every level, and in each level they have a new design, with the 2 Excitement Central levels being the only ones that share designs. After dodging giant clown cannonballs and crossing a tiny bridge, I activate the red switch and free the first spriteling. Crossing another bridge with the cannon and I find the first heart fragment, the first treasure in the red chest and the first hatch to a sub-area. Here a ladder is covered in moving spiked balls. I have to grab the ladder when the bottom is clear and very slowly climb up so I don't get hit on either side. That's all, and up top is the first red diamond and another heart fragment. Cross one more bridge and we're at the end of the circus tent and being blocked by an electric clown fence. It has moving target on it, so I just have to pick up a big Magon and chuck it out. After that it gets faster and I just have to repeat it twice more to make it explode. This lets me walk up the stairs behind it where there's another hatch. Both sides of the top floor here are separated by little spiked balls, so I have to use glue gloves to get past them and pick up the second diamond. Really easy. Continuing left I find this slingshot thing that launches Wario in the opposite direction. I ignore it for now and drop down into the area in the middle, where I take out another gem body creature and use it to pile drive into the metal hatch at the front. In here there's no way to just walk up to the collectibles. I have to wait for this to move up so I can jump on it, then run around to the other side so it lines up with the middle platform and drop to it. Takes a couple tries, but I do get the third heart fragment and third diamond. I go back up to the slingshot and launch myself to the other side and continue up. To the left is the yellow switch and to the right is another slingshot which launches me to the 4th heart fragment. Past this is a glue globe on a rotating pole. I jump off it to the right and find the second Spriteling. I jump off to the left in the middle of his platform and give him the ball to throw at some pins in the back. Knocking them all out just spawns a chest with some coins in it. Not worth the time really. At the other end of the platform is another globe on a pole. I ride it up to find the yellow chest with the second treasure. Then I jump off to the platform just below it, where I'm chased by 3 elephants to the other side. Once they're gone, I can enter another sub-area. This one is incredibly easy. Dodge the one spiked ball of the ladder, pick up heart fragment number 5, and jump to diamond number 4. To the left, ride the globe to the other side of the light green switch. I drop down to the bottom left and fail to dodge a cannonball on my way to another green switch. The chest is on the bottom right of that last globe. That's 3 pieces of treasure. Next I go back down and go left some more. Here I meet the Gator Baby, the Triceratops reskin. Like the Magon, only the model is different. I jump down to meet these cage beasts. I jump on top of them and keep ground pounding until they get mad and grow some feet. Then I just stand behind them and punch them until I can lift them and end them. Then it turns out there was a metal hatch all along after I killed them all. Oops. I then ground pound what I forgot wasn't a hatch but a hole to a new area and I can't climb back up. Oops again. It also drops me into a fight with another gem body creature which is just as easy as the rest. A little to the right is a globe on a pole that moves horizontally. I jump off to the right and use another to get to this metal hatch. I slam through using this level's Cracktile reskin, a pigeon. Here there's a globe on a pole that slowly comes in and then extends at great speed. I've got to jump off at just the right time to have the momentum to make it to the other side. The first time I get close but don't quite make it, I get it a second time though for a Spriteling and a diamond. Outside I ride the next globe to the top to find the light blue switch. I then walk past the next obstacle and make my way to the higher levels of where I landed in this area. There I get the treasure from the light blue chest. On the way back I ride another globe up for a 4th Spriteling. I return to these cogs and punch them to raise them. They lead me to another battle ring. Once again I use pillar strategy. There may be a more efficient way of taking down more enemies, but is there a more satisfying one? Once that's done I enter this town area. Ride the next glue globe to the top to find the dark blue switch and the one after it to the top for a heart fragment. The very next globe takes me to the dark blue chest and another treasure and the 4th to the spot the purple chest spawns with the pink switch just out of reach. All I have to do is pick up one of these cobras and throw it into the switch. Then spot the purple switch just a bit lower to the left. I jump down, punch it, fall into Unicorn's lair trying to beat up this cobra and escape close to the beginning of the town. Get back to the purple chest for the 6th treasure and continue past the cobras, also destroying this clown electric fence. Up this ramp I climb the globes to reach what should be the final treasure, an N64. Looks like I missed one. And slam through the metal hatch next to it. This one has me jumping across platforms in a straight line, some disappear and some have spiked balls rotating around them. After getting knocked off once, I get to the end for a diamond and this 7th heart fragment. Looks like I missed one of those as well. I then drop back down to find another hatch. Here I just have to jump off this thrusting globe at the right time to reach the 2nd floor where I find the last Spriteling and what should have been the last diamond. The stone doohickey is next to where that last metal hatch was, but for the first time I'm riding the Bye Bye balloon to the beginning of the level. I return to that hatch and slam a Gator Baby through it. Here I just have to cross 2 gaps and a quick moving glue globe for the last diamond. Then above the spot where I pounded into the next area is a ladder. It leads to a pair of cobras and behind them, the last treasure. Now I'm just missing a heart fragment. This warrior statue is missing his leg. It's actually at the end of the level, I just need to ride this globe in the opposite direction. Now I can challenge the boss, Clown Around. He creates a giant ball surrounded by glue globes and rides it over the tightrope towards me. He takes his head off, twice, and that lets me punch his real face until I can pick him up and damage him. He tries to escape to the other side on his ball, but I grab onto a globe and go with him. Then I just repeat the same strategy. Then just repeat some more. He gets less globes on the ball and his head starts exploding on me, but he goes down easier. He's probably easier than the last boss. As usual, I complete the statue for my next health upgrade and move on to Spooktastic World's boss, Dual Dragon. 2 dragons with a spiked ball on the ends of their tails and one moves away while the other attacks. After the left one is done breathing fire, I keep punching it until the right one does the same, stopping it from moving away in time and making it take damage. It responds by spitting out loads of glue globes in the hopes I get stuck on one before the other inhales them all. Then the pattern repeats and I get it burned again. I knock out the right dragon before the left spits out the glue globe so it can't even try to inhale me. Doesn't work. Also can't hide too close to the side when dodging the fire before they'll hit you with their tail. After that, nothing else changes, just repeat the strategy 3 more times and they both die. This gets me the second part of the huge treasure box key. Halfway there. Time to move on to World 3, Frailsville, and its first level, Shivering Mountains. Right away there's a bunny spring I can bounce on to reach the red switch at the top of this house. I then slide down this house hill, missing every single ramp on the way down. At the bottom is the red chest, already getting me a treasure. There's stuff up this hill, but thanks to it being frozen, and these electric barriers, I have to jump across to the right until I reach another hill with igloos and these skiing yetis. Apparently they were never given an English name, but in Japanese they're called hermits. I reach the top of the hill and go back left, all the way on the other side is the yellow switch. Long jump onto one of the houses and into the hatch in their chimney. Cute. Well, whoever owns this house has a fireplace, but they've just piled some breakable blocks in the middle and left some spiked balls around. Just punch them all from the right side until the first red diamond of this level drops down. From there I jump to the next house and onto the platforms around these Christmas trees, dodging these freeze cannons and making my way up to find a heart fragment at the top of one. After dropping down I find the first Spriteling on top of one of the igloos. Past them is this big guy, the Angler Mangler. He summons these barrel busters while trying to hit me with chunks of ice from the ground. To damage it I just have to pile drive a barrel buster near it to launch it upwards into its light. After that it tries a different ice pan and the second barrel buster will finish it off. Behind it was an ice slide and on the way down I miss a heart fragment and ramp and fall into the Unicorn's lair. Escaping lands me on the other side of a slide, meaning I can't go back. First thing here is a battle ring, keep swinging pillars. As you can see, most of the recurring enemies turn into snowmen in this level. Once that's done we have these icicle mites popping out of the ground. When you pick them up, if you pile drive them they'll stay stuck in the ground and act as platforms. This lets me get up to the next section, where I pick up a big snowman from the enemy generator to get through this metal hatch. Here I have 5 blocks and 5 levers. Punching one makes the block move until I punch it again to stop it. So all I have to do is have them all move in a straight-ish line. The hard part is the middle block. All of the others move sideways, but the third moves back and forward, and giving myself enough room on both sides to make the jumps took quite a few goes. But when I do, I'm rewarded with the second diamond. When I'm out, rather than dropping down the side, I go to the back and jump across the purple switch. Then I drop down and walk along this narrow path where this giant icicle tries to nudge me off and there's electric barriers for some reason. After the next giant icicle pushes me into the Unicorn's lair and I escape, I decide to not try getting past it and jump to this metal hatch from where I can jump to a lower part of the path. Can't go left because there's another and the path is too narrow to get past it. Until I try the shoulder dash to destroy it and reveal a tiny turtle underneath it. It was blocking another sub-area. There's 5 breakable blocks and a lever. Pushing it makes them all flash in sequence. Destroying them in that order gets me my third diamond and second heart fragment. On the other side of this path I can use the icicle mice to get back up to the previous level. I pick up another and use it to get down the metal hatch. One platform rotating to the side followed by another rotating towards the screen means needs second Spriteling and 4th diamond. Back on the path I pick up this warrior head and hit this green switch. Now I know how to deal with the giant icicles and make my way left and find a spawning point for a light green chest. Back to the right I use another icicle mite to reach Spriteling number 3 and continue further right to pick up a big snowman to activate the light green switch. I then pick another up and go further still, jumping over this Fattington and throwing it at the light blue switch. I then go back to the part I found the Spriteling and use another icicle mite to get even higher. Bounce on the bunny spring and climb this rope ladder to find this outside area. There's a heart fragment on the small bridge in the middle and the light blue chest for a treasure. There's also a pink switch to throw snowman into and that's it, so I drop back down. I then backtrack to the light green chest for its treasure. Continuing past the bunny spring I navigate more of this winding path for another treasure in a green chest. Next in the path I pick up an Ice Ankyron's bomb and use that to go through this hatch. Another easy set of moving platforms in a mostly straight line for a heart fragment and a diamond. I drop down and walk up the snowy path on this hill. The Fattingtons really get no attention from me. I then enter this sub area halfway up. A few circles of spiked balls with a couple glue globes in them. Got a time jumps right for another diamond and heart fragment. Another battle ring waits for me at the top of the hill and another group of enemies get whacked with pillars. I actually have to acknowledge a Fattington for once. Right after the ring is another Angler Mangler. Nothing's changed. Past it we have another hill with hermits skiing down. Here I open the purple chest for treasure. Next is another icy slide where I get a heart fragment completely by accident on the way down. Once again I fail the jump at the bottom and have to escape the Unicorn's lair. At the bottom I get the pink chest treasure, climb the glue globes and go into the metal hatch next to the stone doohickey. This looks like a mess, but you just need to time a couple jumps forward to get a Spriteling and a diamond. And that's me at the end of the level, but I'm still missing 2 pieces of treasure, 2 heart fragments, a red diamond and a Spriteling, so it's back to the beginning I go. I narrowly missed the heart fragment on the second slide. I basically do an entire lap around the level getting nothing new, so back to the beginning again. Guess what? I miss it again. Instead I just quit out of the level. Thankfully everything I collected was saved without having to beat the level first. I miss again, and quit again. On my next try I get it. Only took 5 attempts. I also managed to land in this elevated area I miss every other time too, where I'm put against a gem body creature. The rest of this level is fine, but collectibles on slides that are incredibly easy to miss that you can't get back to and require restarting the entire level just for another go at are a bit of a pet peeve of mine. Especially when I'm going down sideways, which makes it harder to line things up right. When the camera's behind me it's not as big an issue. At the back is a bunny spring and more Christmas trees to climb. At the top of one is the last heart fragment. On the other side is a series of glue globes leading to the last sub area. Just grab onto the side of a block and jump without touching any direction to reach the last diamond and Spriteling at the top. Now for those last 2 treasures. Dropping down afterwards I find out a terrible truth. While all the collectibles were saved when I quit, switches pressed that I didn't open the chest for were reset, and the yellow switch was back at the beginning of the level. I do find a blue switch on top of one of the igloos here and ground pound through this block to get back underground so I can get the 7th treasure. I decide to just do the boss now and get the last treasure afterwards. This level's boss is the Winter Winster. It floats around the arena dropping giant balls and freezing me with its breath. It will also make its eyes glow red and if I'm looking at it, it will turn into white energy and into Wario's mouth, inflating him. Rotating the control stick gets it out. When it drops into the lava created to attack, I can throw one of the balls into it to stun it. It was immediately stunned right after, so I got a second pile driver in too. That's because if I throw a ball into a crater it will erupt, which can also stun it if it connects. That's pretty much it, and I get 2 more hits in, finishing it off. I get my health to 6.5 hearts and re-enter. I press the yellow switch again and finally get the last treasure. As I said, a fine level, but some of those collectibles wound me up. On to the second level, Beanstalk Way. First thing we run into is the Magon reskin, Wolves, and the spawning point for the yellow chest on a tree stump. Behind an enemy generator is a bud that can be ground pounded to open up, then use a wild swing ding to raise the flower. The flower in front of the generator raises me up to the level's first heart fragment, the one behind lets me climb this beanstalk. I jump off the first leaves on the left to find the first spriteling and the green switch. Taking the first leaves on the right leads me to the first sub-area of this level. 4 towers made of breakable blocks I have to whittle down so I can climb to the top of the first red diamond and second spriteling. Leaving pops me right onto the spawning point for the red chest. Jumping off into the final leaf leads me to the red switch and these manta rays. No English name given for them either. After going back down and getting my first piece of treasure, I finally reach the top of the beanstalk. I exit to the right and meet the first tree freak blocking the path. I have to punch it to make it drop its fruit, pick it up on the side with no spikes and throw it at the bud to make it reveal its weak point, then hit it once to kill it. Past it is a Tulipatui, which alternates spitting out a glue globe and taking it away. I fall down below it where I find the yellow switch. I dash jump back to the beginning of the level and get my second treasure. Once again I fall back in, but there's a flower I can raise to get back up. Well, there will be if every enemy will fuck off out of my way and let me land on it. Or I could just bounce off one onto this bridge. I can then climb the smaller beanstalk to another sub-area. Here I have to pick up one of the bombs that drop from the ceiling, stand on this block and activate the lever to reach the second heart fragment and second diamond. After failing to cross the second Tulipatui, I fall right into another hatch. Here I grab a moving glue globe and position myself so I can pass through these rings without being damaged for the third diamond and third heart fragment. I finally managed to succeed in crossing on the Tulipatuis, where I'm met with all the recurring enemy types at once and a metal hatch to slam one through. All I have to do here is jump off this platform and manoeuvre myself to the other. It's easy if you move the camera to be above you. First platform gets me the 4th diamond, and jumping again to a smaller one gets me the 4th heart fragment. Right after that, I drop into another pillar swinging ring. Just outside it is the green chest with my 3rd treasure. Down the slope there's a metal hatch in this river I can get in using a stone head. Or not. So I go ahead a bit and pick up a new enemy, a monstrous magnet, and use that instead. Here I have to activate all the switches so that their paths will cross as they move. The best way is to just hit all 3 as quickly as possible as soon as you gain control to get the 3rd spriteling and 5th diamond at the end. Back outside I knock down another monstrous magnet and throw it into this metal panel to create a platform where I find the purple switch. I do the same to the panel on the other side. I remember the first time I was playing this game that these things would just not work for me and getting stuck here for about half an hour. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but it never happened again. It pissed me off enough to make me quit the game for weeks. It wasn't any of the mistakes seen here by the way, they just wouldn't stick. I do it again, ignoring that green switch, reaching a hill with rams charging down. I climb down these glue globes at the beginning of the hill and find the pink switch. Crossing the hill I pass the spawn points of both blue chests. On the other end is more glue globes leading to the 6th heart fragment. I backtrack, hit the green switch and land in this area where I ground pound further down. Here I raise a flower to hit the light blue switch and enter a metal hatch. Inside there's a giant slowly rotating platform. It's easy enough to get to the other side and get the 4th spriteling and 6th diamond. I can then leave this area on the right, the exit taking me to my 7th heart fragment and 4th treasure from the green chest. Followed by me getting the 5th treasure from the light blue chest. At the end of the hill is another tree freak, this one taking 2 hits to kill. Drop down a bit more, slam a magnet into the wall, climb up the globes, clear the barrel ring, die in the last few seconds of it, climb down, take out another gem body creature, drop off his flower, get the 6th treasure from the purple chest, get knocked into Newfound's lair, trying to throw a ram into the blue switch, escape, hit the switch, get killed trying to enter the metal hatch, and actually get in. This one's just a line of vertically moving platforms, but some of them don't reach high enough. I have to jump as some move up to gain the extra height. I fall once and struggle to get the timing down for a couple others, but it isn't long before I have the last spriteling and 7th diamond. I backtrack to the blue chest for the 7th treasure, I then continue past the giant flowers to kill the last tree freak, this one needing 3 hits. I climb the glue globes along this branch to another beanstalk and at the top is the end of the level, but I'm still missing a treasure and heart fragment. They're not far away. I jump down to the left of where the last tree freak was is the pink chest with the last treasure, a Game Boy Advance, and one more hatch. I pick up the last heart fragment right away while all these blocks are falling into place, and as they rise I jump up to the last diamond. That's everything in this level collected. That just leaves the boss, Spider Atticus. Fuck spiders. This one's cartoony enough that it doesn't bother me, but fuck 'em. Its first attack is to create a shockwave. Don't walk too far in the middle or you'll get stuck in the web and hit. I wait for it to spit out some glue globes on a web and ride it to it so I can jump and ground pound its back to stun it for the pile drive. It also spits a very slow projectile that's easy to dodge. After the second hit it starts firing 4 projectiles at once, but they're still manageable. After the third hit I get killed going for the 4th when I fail to jump in time. After the 4th hit, it fires like 10 projectiles but they're still easy to dodge, and I finish it off. This level was more enjoyable than I remember it being. I get my next health upgrade and enter the lair of the boss of Thrillsville, Red Brief J. He's unaffected by my attacks at first, attack him a lot and he follows up by either spinning towards or trying to jump on me, which will sink the arena for a bit. And if I just leave him be, he'll sometimes charge at me. That's the key to defeating him. I let him charge to the edge and while he's hanging I ground pound to land him in the lava. Next he charges twice before I can pound him in. As you can guess, next cycle he charges 3 times before I can damage him and 4 times on the 4th cycle. On the final cycle he just elbow drops me and starts shooting fireballs from one of his hoof hands, followed by charges and me putting him down. That's 3 of 4 parts of the key and the final world opened. So let's move on to Sparkle Land and its first level, Mirror Mansion. First enemy here is the Yankee Ron's reskin, the party animal. Past it is the moving breakable block that I ride upwards to find the red switch and the sub area. This is another one where I have to hit the lever to make the blocks flash and then hit them in the right order for the first diamond and heart fragment of the level. Now it's time to pound through that block and take the bottom level to the other side, making sure not to destroy the block at the end. I ride the end one up to the first Spriteling. I go through this gate using a party animal and reach an area where I can only see Wario through his reflection. First thing here is the first treasure in the red chest, followed by a metal hatch that I have to use one of these ninja crows to get into. Lining it up is harder than you think when you're basically using reverse controls. Here's a load of spinning circular platforms and that's a good start, isn't it? It takes me until my third try to make it to the other end for the second diamond and heart fragment. Once I'm out I keep following the screen to the right, climb up a ladder and drop into the next area filled with mice in wheels where I hit the yellow switch just barely visible in the mirror. In the next area I ride this weird lion puppet with a glue globe on its tail across this spiked floor. On the way I find the second Spriteling and the light green switch, then I long jump the rest of the way across and just take the damage. This next area gives us this level's mini boss, the Terrible Portrait. Like the Angler Mangler, they spawn barrel busters for me to pile drive to fire them into its hands. 2 hits has it violently explode. Ignore the Triceratops reskin after it and climb up this fence to the yellow chest with the second treasure. I drop down the nearby hole and pick up this vampire, apparently, to slam it through this metal hatch. First I just cross these tiny platforms, then I have to climb some blocks and then jump down from the top to get my third diamond, then climb these moving blocks to my third heart fragment. Now to climb this fence using a mirrored floor to see where I'm going. I find the green switch right away. I land on the other side of this wall and walk all the way to the other side to open this light green chest for my third treasure. Next I have to use the reflection in the floor to climb fences and jump across glue globes. It's not really that hard. After making my way across the walkway at the top, I land in the next section and enter a sub area. Here there's some tiny platforms that rotate every few seconds. It's no challenge though and I now have half the diamonds and heart fragments in the level. Once I leave I drop through a hole into a battle ring and you know how these go by now. There's another lion puppet up ahead but I ignore it for now in favour of getting the third Spriteling. The lion takes me to the spawn point for the blue chest and another metal hatch. Here there's many rotating circles made of blocks. The white ones also descend while you stand on them. After a lot of falling, I make it to the middle for my 5th heart fragment and then to the other side for the 5th diamond. I climb the ladder just outside and follow the fence up top around to the 6th heart fragment. I jump forward from where I found that last Spriteling to find the light blue switch. Going back to the battle ring and going left takes me to another lion puppet. I jump off it halfway across to find the 4th piece of treasure in the light blue chest. I then jump to the other side of a spiked floor to find the blue switch. Then I ride the lion back and backtrack to the chest with the 5th treasure. That's me past the halfway point for each collectible in this level. I ride the lion on the left again and jump onto some glue globes which lead to another mirror room. But I can climb up even more globes at the beginning of the room to make it to that light green chest, my 6th treasure. Now for the mirror room. I walk all the way to the other side and climb the glue globes behind this pillar for the 7th heart fragment. There are these witch enemies that can only be seen in the reflection, so I beat one up, pick it up and spin it into the cog to open the gate at the end. Drop down another hole and there's a blimp in the reflection firing puppet magons at me. I go all the way to the left, kill another Terrible Portrait, but then turn and go right to find a pink spawn point and a metal hatch. We're back to catapult glue globes. Somehow I managed to cross the first 2 huge gaps on my first try to get my 6th diamond, but the last one is a bit trickier. Next time I remember I can ground pound and get the last heart fragment in the level. Continuing past where I fought the Terrible Portrait, I find the purple switch and the pink switch. I then backtrack to get the 7th treasure. Past where the pink switch was is the stone doohickey, but I walk past it to get the final treasure from the purple chest. Next to that is another hatch. Here I just climb a glue globe to find the 4th Spriteling and 7th diamond. I clearly missed a single hatch during this level. Time to go back to the beginning. The last sub area was hidden down this hole that's easy to miss even in the reflection. Here there's 3 levels on the ceiling I need to long jump into, which drop the last diamond and Spriteling after all 3 have been hit. Now for the boss, the Mean MC. He tries to hide under one of these cups but I manage to get some hits in. He follows it with a spinning attack and gets in one of them anyway. Once they're done moving I punch the correct one and then jump into it to knock him out, letting me grab him and damage him. After a bit of baton twirling I make him run back under one to repeat the process. All that happens is the cups move quicker each cycle, which means there isn't much variety in the fight before I finish him off. To be honest, this was my least favourite level in the game. The boss wasn't that great and the level itself I felt looked and played dull, even with the mirror gimmick. But with my health now at 7.5 hearts, it's time for the game's final level, Pecan Sands. This is a long one. Right away I jump up to hit the red switch and knock out one of these flying shovels to enter the metal hatch next to it. Here's a series of switches that raise a few blocks to form a pyramid. It gets me a lot of coins, but I didn't jump on the top block when it set off, so now I have to do it again. I stand on it next time, but it doesn't make it all the way up to the top. I do fall through the hole in the middle though to free the first spriteling before trying again. I have to activate every other lever first to lift the top block higher, then I can ride it to the top and get the red diamond. Dropping down to where I started, I walk along the sand and get the first treasure from the red chest. I spot another hatch, so I run back to the beginning and climb back up to get to it. This one I had trouble with. There's 12,000 narrow blocks hanging around and I need to figure out the correct way to hit them to get to the top. Most of the time I end up with a few blocks bouncing each other along the floor. So let's skip to nearly 10 minutes later. Basically pushing all but one to the front in a line bounced 2 more high enough up that I could climb up to get the second spriteling and diamond. When I leave I stay on this section and go left to a waterfall with glue globes slowing down it. I jump off at the top height, defeat a gem body creature and get blown down to the bottom. This does give me the chance to hit this light green switch though. Going along the right on the bottom I have to defeat another gem body creature. Weird how starting with Greenhorn Ruins, they were in every level except Mirror Mansion. I stay along the bottom and find the yellow switch. I go halfway up this ramp and jump along some tiny platforms to find the second treasure in that light green chest. I make my way up where I was blown off and open the yellow chest for the third treasure. I return to the waterfall and walk to the left side and forward to drop down near some quicksand. Staying along the bottom I find another sub area. Here I climb up a ladder where the first heart fragment is just out in the open. Now I have to keep hitting these arrow blocks around until one gets close enough to reach the diamond. This one takes me a while to get to, but not as long as that last one. Back outside, the boss of Greenhorn Ruins, the sci-fi monster, is in that quicksand. This is the only instance in the game where a boss returns in a later level. All I get for killing it is coins, which I'm not exactly struggling for. To the left of the quicksand is a weather vane that when punched will lift me into the air and land me in a new section. In front of one of the blowers to the right up here is a second heart fragment. To the left I can climb glue globes to another hatch. The third spriteling is in the back, then I just ground pound on this arrow block to get myself brought up to the next floor so I can get the fourth diamond. After I leave I continue left where I find a green switch. I drop down to the bottom here and ignore all these laser jellyfish to find a light blue switch. Below that is a metal hatch. More sideways rotating platforms. These ones will slow down and speed up to throw you off a bit, but it only takes me 2 tries to get the 5th diamond and 3rd heart fragment. I ride the weather vane across the gap to get the 3rd treasure. Going back to the glue globes by that last sub area, I get the 4th treasure from the light blue chest. Below it is a stone cold statue. It has 3 tiers that rotate and each one has a green light that makes that tier stop if hit. I have to line all 3 up to make the top tier explode, then repeat for the other 2 tiers to kill it. Next I go down this slide, picking up heart fragment number 4 on the way down. It drops me to the final battle ring in the game, where my usual method is still used. I head left of the ring and press a blue switch and pick up this big scorper to enter a nearby metal hatch. Here some blocks alternate having a spiked ball on top of them, so I have to make very careful use of the long jump. Then I get stuck on the second jump and even die touching one of the spikes. I have to cling on the edge of the blocks just long enough to drag it down so that I can climb up, but not enough to void out. Doing that twice gets me my 6th red diamond. The rest of it is much easier platforming to get the 5th heart fragment. North from the battle ring I can climb up to the second to last spriteling in the game. I climb up the ladder to the left and head south along the wall to find the 5th treasure in the blue chest. Jumping up these bricks leads me to another sub area where I have to long jump off a disappearing platform to hit a lever that moves these spiked balls from the ladder. This lets me get the 6th heart fragment, then climb some blocks to reach the 7th diamond. I return to the bricks and climb the ladder next to them. Up there I press the purple switch and find the second to last heart fragment behind some stairs. Making my way around I knock out a laser jellyfish and use it to get into the last metal hatch. This area is massive, fitting for the last one. Just got to follow this narrow path along, jumping over disappearing platforms, dodging spiked balls and climbing until I reach both the final spriteling and red diamond in the game. And right away outside there's a pink switch and the waterfall with glue globes where I pick up the final heart fragment too. Just 2 treasures left. Near the top of the pyramid I have to throw the flying shovels into this brown wall to create platforms. The last 2 treasures in the game are at the top, one of them being a GameCube. And that's every collectible in the game picked up. I just have to kill one more stone cold statue before I can face the boss, Ironsider. It's that classic Nintendo boss type of 2 floating hands and an optional face. To damage it I have to stun one of its hands while avoiding its shockwaves and just throw it into the face. After that he'll spin around while breathing fire. And that's about it because this boss goes down really quick thanks to how easy it is to stun its arms and how often it just stays in place and doesn't do anything. With the final statue completed I max out my health for 8 hearts. Now for Sparkle Land's boss, Captain Skull. We fight on the 2 separated halves of his ship and I have to bounce on one of these springs to reach the other side where after a few punches he escapes to the crow's nest. So I bounce up myself and ground pound him to stun him for the pile driver. Made sure to do it over the edge too, make it look good. He hops over to the other side, but I'm right behind him and take him down right away. After the third bit of damage, he had some new moves in. He starts shooting huge cannonballs from his gun arm, but it doesn't do him much good. He also has his own version of my long jump. The only way to damage him is to wait for him to shoot many bombs from his arm and throw one back. Do it once more and I can finish him off, getting myself the final part of the key. With all 4 parts collected, I can now return to the giant treasure chest. You can also see here the WarioWare microgames I unlocked. I approach the chest, which opens to reveal Black Jewel. It opens its eye and destroys Treasure Square, leaving just part of the centre platform. It starts off the fight by shooting eye lasers that create a wall of fire. Around the arena are Spritlings trapped in crystals. Punching it frees it and it'll fly into Black Jewel. Black Jewel will also fire homing fireballs while I wait for one of the flames to disappear. After 4 Spritling hits, it'll become dizzied for the good old pile driver. Afterwards more Spritlings will appear and now Black Jewel will have 3 flames up at once. After the second hit it starts firing lasers faster and creating many shockwaves at once. After the third hit it was kind enough to drop a Spritling right next to me so I could free 2 before being walled in. Apart from that, its pattern is the same. After damaging it 4 times I managed to hit all but one of the Spritlings without getting trapped between flames. Nothing changed for the 6th cycle, or the 7th. Despite his attempts to keep me trapped, I managed to free all the Spritlings in the last cycle and deliver the final blow. Tears flow from its eye and it screams while exploding. We end up in a white void while all the Spritlings we freed surround us and thank us. As a reward they'll rebuild Wario's castle. What you end up with depends on how many Spritlings you freed. Since I saved all 40 Spritlings, after the credits I'm shown a gold castle filled with treasure. That's the best of 6 possible results, with the worst being a tent. First time I beat the game, I got the 3rd best result, a silver castle. And that was Wario World. People complained at the time that it was too short, at just 8 levels, but for the kind of game this is, I think it was a good length. Maybe one more world could have been in without it feeling too long. I enjoy coming back to this, it's just so satisfying to play. It is a bit simple though, and maybe a sequel could have fixed that, but it never happened. I'm surprised this is the only 3D Wario game. This genre fit him so well. Hell, we've only had 2 Wario platformers after this game's release 16 years ago. Hopefully we'll see more again, but this one's a good way to spend an afternoon.